Hello and good evening to you. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on news up here at Desawe Kanda. Also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279. All across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Coming up tonight, there have been 2 additional resignations. We'll get into that shortly as they give you some updates on the Kong and Akonsombo Dam's spillage of excess water that has flooded a number of communities in the Volta region, the eastern region, part of the Greater Accra region, and we understand the Bono region as well. We'll give you an update on that shortly. And we'll tell you how the nightlife is tonight. Stay with us. And also, there's been 2 additional resignations from the National Cathedral Board of Trustees and reasons given by the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams. Plus, Reverend Eastwood Anaba is quite telling and compelling. Stay with us. We'll give you details of this joint statement that these 2 eminent men of God issued earlier today, explaining why they've resigned from the trustees, the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral. We will have a member of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament joining us on Ghana Tonight. Stay with us. Also, in a crucial session at the United Nations Security Council on Monday night, Ghana abstained from voting on a resolution proposed by Russia concerning the conflict in Gaza. We'll tell you how this affects us going forward, and especially the concerns that have been raised by some international relations experts about the inconsistency in Ghana's foreign policy position. Stay with us. Also, we'll be hearing from some Ghanaians who are in Israel, sharing with us their horrific experiences on a daily basis as a result of the conflict in that country. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and Twitter. Let's get talking. Well, let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
At least 26,000. At least 26,000 people have been displaced along the lower Volta Basin as officials continue to take stock of the extent of havoc and devastation caused by the Akosombo and Kpong Dam spillage. Spilling of excess water from the 2 dams by the Volta River Authority has disrupted economic activities, stripped communities of their livelihoods, and left many people in need of emergency help in food, water, and healthcare. Teachers and pupils as young as 5 are risking their lives crossing from Mafiktopo to Mafidevime on canoes without life jackets. These young learners have no alternative but to undertake this perilous journey.
Don't feel comfortable when I am going to school, and then as a moment some of the students are in the house and all their parents are complaining that because of the water they don't know how to swim and we don't have life jackets. So when we put them in the boats and then they were not able to control themselves and then they fall in the water, they can die.
The Ghana Meteorological Agency has denied misleading the Volta River Authority in the matter of the recent spillage of the Akosombo Dam. In a statement, the agency described comments by the VRA PRO Samuel Fletcher as false, unfortunate, and a sharp deviation from the existing relationship between the agency and the authority. The GMA says it's warned the VRA of flash flooding in its first seasonal forecast for southern Ghana for the year 2023, released in March, May, and August. President Akufo-Addo has urged the Christian Council and community to pray for understanding for the citizenry to know that not all elected political officers are thieves. He believes some politicians would have been better off in the private sector and encouraged citizens to believe in state institutions as they work for the country's interest. President Akufo-Addo was speaking at the Jubilee House when a delegation from the Christian Council called on him to introduce their new chairman, Right Reverend Dr. Hilliard Della.
We want to pray for an understanding in Ghana that not everybody who's elected in this office is a thief. There's an assumption in our country, unfortunately, an assumption widely held that people who come to political office have done so in order to enrich themselves. Some of us would have been better off in the private sector if it came to a question of trying to make money. But if there's an assumption that is there, if it's one that I think we all ought to work hard.
The Electoral Commission says it will prosecute all guarantors who breach the law in vouching for more than 10 persons to register in the limited voters registration exercise. Addressing the media, Deputy Chairperson Samuel Tete stressed that the guarantor system has outlived its usefulness.
We will submit the whatever documents we have to the AG's Department for Prosecution for advice. The other thing that we want to do is to publish the names of all those who breached the law. We have data on the number of applicants who guaranteed for more than 10.
Well, there's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, two more members of the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral, the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams and Reverend Iswood Anaba, have resigned as members of the Board of Trustees. Now, in a letter addressed to the President and signed by both men of God, they indicated that their resignation is due to the non-compliance of the board to halt the activities relating to the construction of the cathedral until an independent audit is concluded. That's the heart of their concerns. In fact, so earlier today, when these two other persons, that's eminent persons, Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral, that's the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams and Reverend Iswood Anaba, communicated their decision to resign from the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral. Now, in that letter, which we have a copy of, indeed was signed by both men of God, addressed to the President. They indicated that their resignation is fundamentally due to what they describe as the non-compliance of the Board of Directors, and that's the Board of Trustees, to halt all activities relating to the construction of the National Cathedral. Now, stay with me. I'm going to run through aspects of this letter that was earlier communicated to earlier today, and the specific reasons why they gave for their decision to step aside from the Board of Trustees. And guess what? They are not the only ones who have taken this path. You'll recall Bishop Daki Ward-Mills as well, not too long, in fact, earlier in the year, also gave a number of reasons, quite similar to what the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams and Reverend Iswood Anaba have given. But this is it. They say, quote, in January 2023, as trustees of the Board of Trustees, we submitted a draft resolution to the said board resolving that current activities advancing the construction of Ghana's National Cathedral be deferred until the findings of an audit. They only asked for an audit to be put in place. Now, it continues. This deferment included a cessation of activities of the Board of Trustees. Specifically, our resolution stated, quote, in the spirit and cause of transparency and accountability to the Ghanaian people, the current Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral shall appoint an independent, that's auditor, to deal with the matters arising and also the issues relating to the specific concerns that were raised by the board of that's the board of trustees. Now, this deferment included a cessation of trustees of the National Cathedral, and they continue that they wanted an appointment of an independent accounting firm to audit all public funds contributed to the National Cathedral. This appointment of an auditor shall take place before the deferment of activities. They continue that despite our prayers, best hopes, and wishes, unfortunately, a needed audit to help restore public confidence and trust in this consequential project has not been enacted to the best of our knowledge. Since January 2023, we awaited news to no avail regarding the findings of the audit. Now, they make the point that we therefore regret that as a matter of conscience and faith, we hereby submit to your own resignation from the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral. We honorably assure you, as we assure the Board of our resolution, our action in no way impugns the vision or intent of the National Cathedral, but rather ensures that it is advanced and built on a foundation of integrity, efficiency, and quality, while garnering and maintaining public trust and support. We truly owe this to God and to country. Williams, and then also we have Reverend Eastwood Anaba, all now coming with that decision of the resignation. Now, we went to the National Cathedral's website. This is what is there. As expected, the resignation letter came in earlier today, so you still have the names and faces of the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams and Eastwood Anaba's website. The Board of Trustees members: Apostle Professor Opoko Nyina, and then also the former chair of the Pentecost Church. Now, stay with me. We will be back shortly after this quick break, and we will get into the National Cathedral Board of Trustees. We'll be back shortly.
Everybody knows Acrobato. And if you know Acrobato, it means you know M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic is my pillar. Let's hear what others are saying about M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. Who will be careful M-Punch one?
Chesena me ankasa me period no say problems wom ntina ma wo ho idea ma me papa chesena nya asem ketewa na mkwan point no mo hwe me modem no mo hwe bibia na so mo medu me fire no ene ma won kra me nu foforo kwa na mkwan mu a eba head everything yourself
me ma me no adwodwo eda ho a wontumi nante ene ne ko end point o mama nu a ene ne ho idea watimi asori anante.
That's end point for you.
Of Acrobato.
Hello.
Hey, ohwehwe what che.
Okay.
A free bra wo di end point wa dance. I me call you no. Me just say my name koye and person my emre nyina and na magina sebema na me no be fear for there the one dey nyina jaresa.
You heard everything. I have secret. M-Punch is my secret. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo Superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
I want you so bad, Alfred Ocansey. I want you. I wanna say yes, I can't resist. I want you. Ooh, I want you, Alfred Ocansey. I want you so bad, Alfred Ocansey.
Of a goodness rich in milk and butter, in Alpha Cracker, yummy and deliciously crunchy.
But I can't resist you.
Alpha Crackers, simply irresistible.
This advert is FDA approved.
When you have the extra bit of ambition in your heart, you also need extra bit of energy to come through. And for that, Rush Energy is the perfect boost to get over the line. Created in the USA and proudly made in Ghana. Thanks to the unique formula, you have the power of ginseng, the benefit of vitamins and all the energy of inositol, taurine and caffeine. Anytime you need to go beyond, Rush Energy will help you get there.
Everybody knows Acrobato. And if you know Acrobato, it means you know M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic is my pillar. Let's hear what others are saying about M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. Who will be careful M-Punch one?
Chese na me ankasa me period na se problems wom ntina ma wo ho idea ma me papa chese na nya asem ketewa na me coin point no mo hwe me modem no mo hwe bibia na so mo meduro me fire no ene ma won kra me enu foforo kwa na mkwan mu a eba
Head everything yourself.
Me ma me no adwodwo eda ho a wontumi nante ene ne ko end point o mama nura ene ne ho eden a watimi asori anante.
That's M-Punch for you.
Of Acrobato.
Hello.
Hey, Oshisho what chair?
Okay.
A free bra with the M-Point what dance. I'm a choir no. Me just say my name Koye and pass one of my nyina and imagine Sabema. Now me be here for the hard nyina jarisa.
You heard everything. I have secret. M-Punch is my secret. M-Punch Homeopathy.
Welcome back to Ghana Tonight. We apologize for that hitch in the sound earlier, but we're live here on TV3 Ghana on Facebook as well, DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. Now, these were the specific reasons why the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams and Reverend Eastwood Anaba communicated their decision to resign from the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral. Now, they asked for an independent audit, that they wanted an independent audit firm to be employed to audit the work and the expenditure so far on the National Cathedral. Since January to date, that demand or that application that they asked for was never fulfilled. And they say that as a matter of conscience and faith, they decided to submit their resignation to the president, but they still believe in the National Cathedral that's project. This is the website of the National Cathedral of Ghana. This is the Board of Trustees that you see there. Apostle Professor Opoku Onyina, the former chair of the Church of Pentecost, the Archbishop Charles Palmer Buckle, Metropolitan Catholic Archbishop Cape Coast, Vice Chair, Most Reverend Bishop Justice Sophia Akrofi, former Anglican Archbishop Emeritus member, Right Reverend Professor Emmanuel Mate, very, very famous, a former moderator of the Presbyterian Church, is there as well. Now, they are not the only ones. The Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams' picture is still on the page of the National Cathedral. Maybe in the coming days, we'll see whether this picture will be taken down or not after this decision to resign from the Board of Trustees. Most Reverend T.K. Awachiprat is there, former Presiding Bishop of the Methodist Church. Reverend Dr. Joyce Aye, Executive Director, Salt and Light Ministries. And then you have Reverend Eastwood Anaba is still there. And you know, Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng is the man that Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa has been chasing and revealing quite a lot over the period. He's the founder of Power Chapel Worldwide. And then you have Reverend Dr. Frimpong Manson, General Superintendent, Assemblies of God, and Kingsley Ofosuntiamwa, Executive Director, Ghana Museums and Monuments Board. They make up the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral. So these two, Iswood Anaba, and then the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, maybe in the coming days we'll see what happens on the website of the National Cathedral. But you recall that Bishop Doug Heward Mills also resigned from the National Cathedral Board of Trustees. He gave reasons why. Take a look at this. When he communicated his decision, that's Doug Heward Mills communicated his decision to resign from the Board of Trustees, he said, I feel that the treatment of the issues I have raised in my several letters has been unfortunate. My letters have been ignored in the past, not attended to for years, and at best addressed flippantly. You may recall I have spoken passionately and written extensively about the cost. Take note of this, about the cost. You recall that the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams and Reverend Iswood Anaba also asked that an audit be done to ascertain expenditure on the National Cathedral. That Heward Mills is asking about what? The cost, the design, the location, the fundraising, the mobilization of the churches, and the role of the trustees. He wanted some clarity on this. He says that these, if heeded, would have made our project more achievable. Generally speaking, my inputs, my opinions, and my letters have been trivialized and set aside. And he continues that this lack of clarity is robbing our vision of the validity it needs. Over and over, I have asked that we address this appropriately and urgently, because there are many dire implications to the trustees and the individuals. The emphasis, the individuals involved in this project. Nelson Roxon Dafiamepo is Member of Parliament for the South Dye constituency. He is a member of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament. He's joining us on the telephone. Thank you very much for joining us here, Ghana Tonight. First off, the singular, at least, reason given by the Archbishop and Reverend Iswood Anaba for resigning was that they asked for an audit. It's not coming. So on the basis of conscience, they are off the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral. How did that strike you as a member of the Public Accounts Committee?
Thank you very much. Good evening to your viewers. Clearly, I like the fact that you said the singular reason underpinning the resignation letter is the fact that their request for audit into the activities of the Secretariat of the National Cathedral had not been done. Indeed, they are not the only trustees who have asked for an audit. Parliament itself has also asked for an audit. Indeed, Parliament, is by a private member's motion, put up a committee to look into the activities of the National Cathedral. But let me say that may be the apparent singular reason. There are more other reasons as a result of which these two distinguished men of God have decided to abandon ship in this matter. It's the embarrassment, the national embarrassment, the religious embarrassment, the fact that people who mount the pulpit and speak about piety, sanctity, chastity of our deeds, truthfulness to God and man, and all that, find themselves embroiled in this embarrassment. They find this a very, very convenient point to disembark and to abandon ship.
But so you see, you say it's a convenient reason for them to have resigned. They ask specific questions about the cost. as far back as January, they wanted an audit to be conducted into the operations of the National Cathedral. These are the Board of Trustees asking for this. And it's also consistent with what the Bishop Dag Heward-Mills asked earlier about wanting to know the cost of the entire cathedral project that he didn't get. Also one of the reasons why he resigned as well. That's consistent, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I agree. So I'm saying that it's a very convenient, apparent reason to give. But for me, the more compelling reasons are those of embarrassment and the ignominy that it brings their image as distinguished men of God. So they may not be able to say that openly. But for me, those are a more compelling basis for which they are living, because the entire project is fraught with inaccuracies, misleading accounts, a concealment of facts, opaque operations of the executive secretary, and all manner of things. As we speak, nearly 400 million Ghana cedis has been sunk into a project. The effect, the evidence on the ground is an open cast surface. That open cast surface is what you see on the ground. So what did we do with in excess of 400 million Ghana cedis? And we mentioned 400 million. If it is 400 Ghana cedis that you can put in your back pocket and walk about in the streets of Accra, 400 million, it's such a huge, colossal sum of money. I mean, look at what is happening in the Volta region, in my own constituency, in North Town, in Central Town, in South Town, in Keta, in Angloga, in Ketu South. There's water everywhere. People's homes are been submerged. People can't find places to put their head. And we have a goal in hand, asking for relief items for thousands of people in my homeland. But a government decides to spend in excess of 400 million. When you ask for accountability, they can't tell you. And what is more embarrassing is that the people that the president himself puts in charge are asking for accountability. They cannot be given. So who exactly is in charge? Who exactly is spending money on the cathedral project? When the trustees of the cathedral are asking that let's go into accounts, and the account cannot give it, then who exactly is spending the money on the project, on the so-called cathedral project? Because we can't see the evidence of this expenditure. I think that is one point that the men of God are raising. Yes, monies have been spent, fine. But we can't see the evidence of the money so far spent. So let's go into account.
You see, the only figure we have, at least, been given by both the finance minister and a few other persons associated with this project in the public domain is the 339 million cedis. I know that it was contained in that document when the finance minister appeared before that committee asking questions about certain monies expended on this project. 339 million. The breakdown, we have a chunk of it going into Ajayi and Associates and the design of the architectural design and so on, right? That's what we do know. So as a member of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, considering the fact that the questions about accountability being asked by even the members of the Board of Trustees, it's not being answered. Reason why they're resigning from this project, what are you going to do?
We expect the Auditor General to pursuant to the enactment setting it up and the constitutional provision on the Auditor General to seize its lawful authority and go and audit the accounts of the National Cathedral as a state institution, because it is a set up by an act of parliament and submit the accounts to parliament for our consideration at the Public Accounts Committee. Let me correct this. The foundation set up by incorporation of a company on behalf of the Republic of Ghana.
I see. Now, but beyond that, the questions that are being asked are specific about issues related to how the accountability question will be answered as well. That's the concern of the Ghanaian people, because you talk about what's happening in the Volta region, and as a member of parliament for the South Dike constituency, I gather that some part of your constituency has also been affected by this spillage of the Akonsombo Dam, is it not? Hello?
Opportunity to dilate a bit on the matters happening in the Volta region. And I think that my constituency in South Dike, Ajebwi, Jakiti, Kumbuni, Kope, Jemeni, Akolopo, Agodake, Chanakbe, Abuitika, all the way to Akpato, Perfectonu, they are submerged. Proportions of so many homes are submerged. Farmlands are gone. And it is the case in the entire Volta Lake Basin. And so I think that government should declare a state of emergency so that it can tackle these problems properly. Because when I saw the president and his poster yesterday, I am not convinced that they want to bring some agency to tackling the problems that are presently generated on the ground. We need a certain agent approach to dealing with the issues at hand. And I want to use your medium to call on the president to declare state of emergency so that the army, the security services can be deployed fully. My brother Ocansey, we deployed soldiers from this country to go and undertake humanitarian jobs in other countries. And we pay them. Why haven't we deployed our soldiers to the Volta region to help to solve this crisis by now? Why? Why? We have soldiers, we have Ghanaian soldiers doing peacekeeping work and humanitarian work in Palestine, in Gaza, in Israel, as we speak.
So there's a video.
Why is it that we have crisis at home and we cannot deploy our soldiers, our security men? You recall that when there was a landslide and flooding in Sierra Leone, our vice president donated public money, the equivalent of $1 million to assist them.
Very, very important call there, Nelson Dafiam. That actually leads us to our next conversation. Thank you very much for joining us. And then also that bit of you being a member of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, the accountability question that you're going to be asking on behalf of the Ghanaian people about this National Cathedral and matters arising in the wake of these two members of the Board of Trustees resigning. Thank you. Nelson Roxon Dafiam is Member of Parliament for the South Dike constituency. That area has also been affected by the spillage of the excess water from the Akonsombo Dam. That leads us to our next conversation. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, at least 26,000 people have been displaced along the lower Volta Basin as officials continue to take stock of the extent of havoc and devastation caused by the Akonsombo and Bone Dams spillage. Now, spilling of the excess water from the two dams by the Volta River Authority has disrupted economic activity, and we're going to show that on the screen right now, the stripped communities of their livelihoods and left many people in need of emergency help in food, water, and healthcare. And this community, what you're seeing on the screen is the Mepe community. It's totally submerged under this excess water spilled from the Akonsombo Dam. This is the Mepe community. This is the daytime videos of the Mepe community. Now, let's take you into the nightlife, because that also is presented a set of challenges for the people who have been affected by the spillage of this excess water from their Akosombo Dam. Total, we understand 26,000 people have been affected and displaced. The Navy has rescued 8,000, and the health directorate there has also accounted for 12,000 people who have some health-related issues that have reported to the various health facilities there. In the Mepe community, let's cross over live there right now. Let's give you the nightlife in Mepe and how the people who have been displaced in the Mepe community are living. Take a look at this. This is courtesy a reporter, John Bixson, a local journalist in the area. This is what's happening right now, how the people in Mepe who have been displaced by the floods are living. This is the nightlife. And the concern by the people is that they have been exposed to mosquito bites, and then also others were attacked by reptiles as well, specifically snakes. And the classrooms of the schools, tent shelters are cramped, and families find themselves sharing small spaces with several other displaced individuals. Now, that's what's happening there right now. That's how they're sleeping. So that's what's happening now in the Mepe community, and this is a classroom where some of the displaced persons have been sent there as a shelter for them. And the unfortunate situation there is how a number of families have all been put together. And that's what you saw on the screen there. A very, very worrying situation, to say the least. Richard Kumado is a screen analyst. Join us on Zoom. I thank you, Mr. Kumado, for your time here on Ghana Tonight. There's been calls, and you heard the Honourable Member of Parliament for the South Dike constituency making that call for a state of emergency to be declared in these areas that have been affected by the flooding. Is it a call that you would support, considering the situation that they are faced with?
Definitely, it's long overdue. And I think with the capacity of the military, they will be able to do a good job. I must also say that I visited the area, and coming back home, I was devastated. It is time for we as country to have a second look at our national disaster management approach in this country. The approach and the methodologies are a bit archaic and outmoded, and it's not serving us any good. There are levels of ineffectiveness in that whole approach, and so therefore you can understand the need for bringing in the military with the capacity and the knowledge to do a quick risk assessment to see how best they can resolve this particular issue. We are heading towards a national disaster in a magnitude we have never thought about, and the earlier the better.
I see. Now, why would you think that the president, who has to declare this national emergency, would not do so as quickly and urgently as you are making this call, especially because he's come face to face with the evidence of the impact of this spillage? He was there yesterday.
I don't know who might be informing him on the situation, and I don't know the risk assessment they have done, and I don't know the capacity of the elements they have picked as a matter of urgency that needs some level of priority. But speaking of the president, if you listen to him carefully, I think his body language was a bit of a problem. Many of the things he said were not too appropriate. To that extent, what we are dealing with, if you look at the strength, the length and the breadth of the areas affected, and the capacity of the danger we are looking at, we should take matters into our hands. And as somebody who have a lineage from the Volta region, I'm just saying that even if the president doesn't declare a state of emergency, it's a state of emergency on its own. And all those who have the capacity to help, you might not need Ghana to declare a state of emergency. If they have it, fine. People must walk in there and do what is right. Other than that, the dimensions and the dynamics of the effect, after we are talking of livelihoods gone, we are talking of people losing their lives, we are talking of the industry of hospitality destroyed, we are talking of frustrations and trauma, and we are talking of total confusion, dead bodies underwater. You might not need anybody to say we are into die-hard situations. So the president must come to their aid. And to that regard, I think it's in line, they call on the president to have a second look.
Well, so based on your own security analysis and the lenses you're looking at this is already a national disaster. This is a situation that has assumed the natural disaster scale.
Definitely. My understanding is that similar scale happened in 1963, and it means that we have not learned from our history. The demarcations were overlooked. Businesses did not do proper security risk assessment. And I think the people managing the dams also lacked the capacity or negligently did not pick up the early warning signs in order to do proper education along the stretch we are talking about. And we are talking about water that has been released without control. And the damage that could do is very huge. My only willing and appealing is that from security risk assessment point of view, we might need more professionals on the field. And that is why if the military get involved in their numbers, the people of the Volta region will be so grateful to them.
If this call for the national emergency or a state of emergency to be declared in these areas that have been affected, because as the last time we counted, and the videos we are showing videos we got just a few minutes ago about how people are living at night in the Mepe community. That's what is on the screen right now. Children are exposed to all sorts of situations there, and that's been the prime focus. Now, in an event where this urgent call that not just you, but members of parliament in the area, other security analysts are making, it's not heeded to for a state of emergency to be declared. What's likely to happen?
What is likely to happen is that individuals from the Volta region and well-meaningful people all over the world must come to the aid of the Volta region and to the people who live predominantly within that area. And there's power in mobilization and there's power in working together. And if our own country neglected the people there, we mobilizing ourselves should be able to do something and help the people come back to life again. Other than that, the nature of the effects, the overall effect of what we are talking about is huge. And to that extent, we can only pray to God and ask for private individuals, corporate organizations to come to their aid. This whole thing about when people are displaced, we go to give them rice and water and we give them cooking oil. It doesn't really support the situation and it doesn't really help them because they need survival and they will need to stay alive before they can cook. And everybody who has the capacity to help the people in these dire moments will be willing and accept those gifts and send it to the people in the Volta region.
I appreciate your time, Mr. Komando. Thank you so much for joining us
you.
here on Ghana Tonight. Richard Komando, security analyst, monitoring the happenings in the Volta region, the Volta Basin, which has been heavily hit as a result of the spillage of excess water from the Akosombo Dam. What we're learning is that the water levels in the dam may rise in the coming days because the Ghana Meteorological Agency has also indicated that more rains are expected in the coming days. That's the rather worrying and unfortunate situation there. That's the information from the Ghana Meteorological Agency. More rains expected in the coming days over the Volta region. And so all things being equal, that's going to lead to an increase in the water levels in the dam. And obviously that would lead to a further spillage of excess water. And these areas you're seeing from Sogakofe to Mefe, there's two heavily hit areas. The North Tong district is the heaviest hit district in terms of the scale of impact. Now we're looking at areas as well in the Greater Accra, the eastern part of the Greater Accra region, and then also some parts of the eastern region. that's Suchari and other places that have also been hit, and Akose as well. We had reports from the Bono region as well, some parts of the coastal areas in the Bono region. But the news coming through is that the Ghana Meteorological Agency has given indication of more rains expected, and that's already been, according to our sources, relayed to the Volta River Authority on this matter. But this is an issue that, as well, we're staying quite closely with, and the calls for a state of emergency to be declared in these areas that have been affected. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, still on issues of security, Ghana abstained from voting on a resolution proposed by Russia concerning the conflict in Gaza in a crucial session at the United Nations Security Council on Monday night. Now, the resolution put forth by Russia called for a humanitarian ceasefire, the release of hostages, aid access, and the safe evacuation of civilians in the war-torn region. That's what happened. But in this crucial session at the United Nations Security Council last night, Ghana took the position to abstain from voting on this resolution proposed by Russia concerning the conflict in Gaza. Take a look at this. The questions were asked about the specific case of our foreign policy. If you go onto the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website, the fundamental principles that guide Ghana's foreign policy are contained in the 1992 Constitution. Article 40 of the Constitution provides the broad principles underpinning the foreign policy as follows: promotion and protection of the interests of Ghana, establishment of a just and equitable international economic, political, and social order, promotion of respect for international law and treaty obligations, promotion of the settlement of international disputes through peaceful means, and then also, you see, the one there, the promotion of the settlement of international disputes through peaceful means, and adherence to the principles enshrined in the Charter and aims or ideals of the United Nations. Now, this resolution put forth by Russia called for a humanitarian ceasefire, the release of hostages, aid access, and the safe evacuation of civilians in the war-torn region. Now, I'm going to show you, out of the Security Council's 15 members, the Russian-led draft received 5 votes in favor. That's China, Gabon, Mozambique, Russia. We'll put that on the screen right now. And also United Arab Emirates. These are the countries that supported Russia's resolution. The countries that voted against that resolution by Russia: France, Japan, United Kingdom, and the United States of America. If you recall, sometime last week, the president was in the US. He indicated that Ghana supports Israel in everything that's happening. But in this Security Council's vote on the Russia draft, Ghana decided to abstain. We didn't go for or against. We toed the line of Albania, Brazil, Ecuador, Malta, and Switzerland. That's what we decided to do. Now, Professor Vladimir Chidanso is an international relations expert. He's joining us on the telephone for a conversation on this. Professor Vladimir Chidanso, thank you very much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Now, this was a crucial session at the UN Security Council. Now, Ghana decides that we're going to abstain from voting on the resolution proposed by Russia concerning the conflict in Gaza. I mean, I'm looking at the reasons for this resolution, but do you support the decision by Ghana to abstain from this vote?
It is very, very, very disappointing. Very disappointing, because the pillars of our foreign policy enjoin us to be more proactive in international politics. Nkrumah told us or taught us to be diplomatically progressive. That is, whilst we are being positively neutral, positive neutrality is part of our foreign policy. And in that positiveness, he meant taking charge of those issues that fall within our purview. For example, his going to Vietnam was part of that positive neutrality, that there was a problem, the Cold War. But then, even though we are non-aligned, we should be positive in trying to solve the Vietnamese problem. And I think Ghana should pursue the foreign policy, our foreign policy, without necessarily being seen as, pandering to the whims and caprices of the West. I'm a little disappointed because the text of the resolution was very innocuous, an innocuous situation. It was calling for what all humanity wants: ceasefire, making humanitarian corridors for the people, the 2.1 million people, to be reached, making it possible for the people not to be starved to death. And Ghana says, I abstain on this, and the abstention gives us nothing. It doesn't inure to the benefit of Ghana or to the U.S. or to Israel in any way. So I'm a little disappointed. I thought we should have been more positive. If the text wasn't to our taste, we could have asked for a new text, or we could have joined the text and shaped the text. That would be positive on our side of our foreign policy. But this one is disappointing.
So, Professor Vladimir Njodan, so from your own understanding of our foreign policy, this decision by Ghana to abstain from this particular draft resolution by Russia is not consistent with our foreign policy position?
I do not think so. Public policy is now, foreign policy is now public policy. At the point that we are on the political dispensation, everybody knows that we are a very democratic country, strong within Africa and West Africa. And therefore, when we are making statements, we should be able to be bold enough to let the world follow us. But this position is not one, it shows a little cowardice. In fact, Ghana's own statement since the Hamas invasion of Israel was not positive. I mean, we just parroted what America wants. You see, the U.S. is now going around forcing countries to give similar statements. Even Saudi Arabia, America was not happy with Saudi Arabia's statement, was not happy with Chinese statement. I mean, who made them the gendarme of the world that you are whipping everybody to make a statement that does not bring anything? Condemnation of Hamas and Israel's right of self-defense. Finished. And what does that bring? The problem didn't start today. And if we really want a foreign policy that will help solve the problem, we must go for it. In 2014, 51 days of war. And look at what the Palestinians suffered. Now, occupation and oppression of the Palestinian people in their own homeland. And nobody is talking about that. Now Hamas reacts, and then they are devilish. But then we need some statement that will solve the problem. And that is what this statement is trying to do. The statement was just in the interim. What should we do within the confines of what is happening now? And that's what the statement sought to do. And to abstain or vote against it, for me, I don't know. I'm disappointed, honestly speaking.
Professor Vladimir Njodan, so what is Ghana's foreign policy position? I read the Constitution before I engaged you tonight. What the Constitution says, what is on the Foreign Affairs Ministry's website. But there's been a lot of inconsistency, at least, over the past 3-4 years on the position that we take when anything happens on the international front. So what is the foreign policy position of Ghana?
Well, let me educate all of us on this issue. We go for Guantanamo Bay prisoners and that kind of thing. I see that is so important to us. We do X, Y, Z, trying to pander to the whims of some big power. Ghana's foreign policy is pivoted on 4 main pillars. 4 main pillars. Number 1 is Pan-Africanism, that we will go with anything that inures to the benefit of Africa, Pan-Africanism, and including African unity. Number 2 is good neighborliness, that all countries are our neighbors, so we ensure that our relationship with them brings about some kind of good neighborliness. The third one is non-alignment. We don't want to align ourselves to the east or to the west. Non-alignment is not dead as such, and that is one of the pillars of Ghana's foreign policy. Then our final pillar is multilateralism. Multilateralism means we will hate unilateralism. For example, America going to Iraq, we will condemn it because it's unilateralism. Multilateralism means belonging to multilateral organizations and going by what the multilateral organizations say. For example, the UN, if it is going left, we'll go left with it, right, we'll go right with it. And in this case, Guterres last week mentioned the same thing. Let us have humanitarian corridors. Can we have ceasefire? Can we open up this and give them light, give them water? And so why was Ghana running away from one of the pillars of our foreign policy? That is multilateralism. In fact, the text veers more towards multilateralism than because it is coming from Russia. So these are the pillars of our foreign policy.
Well, thank you, Professor Vladimir Judanso. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. But a 33-year-old Abigail Ejay, a Ghanaian who lives in Tel Aviv, several kilometers from the border towns where the strikes are being felt directly, remains impacted by the situation. We touched base with her earlier. She shared her experience living in Tel Aviv with all these air strikes going on.
In Ghana, we haven't seen things like this before. Actually, I haven't, ever since I was born. So when I found myself in something like this, I was nervous, and then I wasn't afraid though that I'm going to die or something like that, because this is not the first time it happens here. We had encountered I think I've encountered like 3 or 4 times before, but it wasn't like this. This is really, really serious. Even during this afternoon, it happened. There was a lot of bombs in Tel Aviv, and then we have to run to the shelter, and then it's like, yeah, it's scary, but not that scary. Sorry, not that scary. Yeah, that's all I can say. It's a bit scary, but not that scary. If you are in Israel or in Tel Aviv, you're a little bit safe, because all the places we have shelter in each place that you be, whether it's your workplace or let's say your home. You understand? And there's something that is taking the bombs upwards. So those living in Tel Aviv and then the other suburb are safe. But if you're living afar, it's gonna be very difficult and tough. Yeah. Like Beersheba, Nazareth, Ashkelon, Ashdod, those places and those living across the Gaza Strip is very difficult. And then I understand what they are also going through. But in Tel Aviv, everything is going on. Supermarket, everything is now open. Students are going to school. Work is ongoing. Yeah.
Well, so that's Abigail Ejay, 33-year-old Ghanaian living in Tel Aviv, sharing that experience with us, and horrifying to say the least. But before we go, COP Alex Mensah retired. The man at the center of this whole IGP, the leaked tape containing this alleged plot to have the president remove the IGP, he's been talking tough. He says that he's ready to stand by every statement he made, wherever he's called upon to do so. He spoke to my colleague, Kemini Amano. Take a look.
IGP to apply for nominations, you should have been a member of your party for at least 2 years.
Yes.
Active member of your party for at least.
They didn't say active.
That's what the Constitution says.
The Constitution doesn't say active.
It does.
Where is it?
It does. It
Where?
says
Section.
It's Article 11.
Article 11. What does it say?
It says you should be an active.
Active
member.
There's nothing like active there.
We'll take a look at it after we speak.
Take it.
But it says that you should be.
And that is subject to your interpretation.
The active is subject to.
Subject to interpretation. What is
What
active?
interpretation are you giving to active?
What is active? Does active mean going to wear party T-shirt and campaigning? Or active means assisting the party without coming out? Or active means paying your dues? Or active means sponsoring the party? What is the meaning of the word active?
What is it to you? What does it mean to you?
My interpretation
is
that you need to be a member and do what you think you can do to help the party. That's it. You don't need to come out and campaigning and standing on, no. You're wearing party T-shirts and then singing and campaigning and dancing.
What were you doing to help the party that makes you think you're an active member?
For that, I cannot say it here.
Why not?
No, I won't.
Why not? Your constituents will want to hear.
My constituency, I will speak to them when I get to them.
Your constituents are watching.
Yes, they are watching, but they know I've spoken to them already, and I will speak to them when I get to them.
So, the other things that you should have, apart from being an active member of the party, is to be in good standing.
In good standing, yes.
Good standing, which includes that you should have paid your dues
yes, I'm in good
consistently for. So while you were an officer, you were paying your dues to the party?
Yes.
And you still don't see any conflict of interest
there's
situation
no
with that?
No. Where is the conflict of interest? There's no conflict of interest.
You didn't think that it's perhaps put you in a situation where you would look like a partisan officer?
No. It wasn't showing.
It was
in
not
my
showing.
work.
I see.
It wasn't showing in my work. No.
I see.
I was working professionally.
Okay.
So nothing was showing in my work.
I see. So then, while you were nursing the dreams, the only thing that stopped you from applying to be nominated was because you were a police officer and you needed to be out of office before then.
Exactly.
Because for you, there is no conflict of interest.
No, there's not. I don't see it.
I see.
I don't see it because we have police officers who resigned 2 weeks and they went and competed as MPs.
So your case shouldn't be different.
Different.
But maybe
some even resigned even 2 days.
But maybe that's an indication of a bigger problem within the service. The fact that we may be having partisan police officers sitting there in the context of neutrality.
When I joined the service, 92, and I passed out in 93, and I was posted to the police headquarters. There was an office occupied by a group of people who were NDC people. What was the name? You know, they have this a group, and they had an office over there.
Well, so that's COP Alex Mensah, retired. In that interview with my colleague Kemini Amano. You'll find more of it on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. On behalf of the rest of the team, I want to say thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Make a date with us same time next week. That's tomorrow. Beg your pardon, tomorrow at 10 p.m. I'm Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.